Hey everybody, welcome to The Art of Change with Kira Derryberry. Thanks for joining us. Just a couple quick announcements before we get started. So if you would like to follow along on our YouTube page, make sure and hit that subscribe button. You're going to get notifications when we're going live, checking out all the fun stuff that's available on the YouTube. On Instagram, we are at WHCC Pro, and if you have specific product questions, details, all the things you need to know, you can go to WHCC.com. So thank you again for joining us. I am Matt, I'm Client Success Manager here at White House Custom Color, and I'll be your YouTube host today. And I am honored to be here with Kira.
I am so excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So before we get started, Kira, can you tell everybody that's listening along today a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your business, all that fun stuff?
Sure. I was born in a town.
It starts way back when.
Way back when, in a land before time. No, I am originally from Huntsville, Alabama, born and raised.
Okay.
17 years ago, moved to Tallahassee, Florida. And have been there. We moved there for my husband to finish school there,
okay.
And then we never left. We thought we'd leave, but it sucked us in. It's a vortex, beautiful place. So I originally started out my professional career not in photography, although that's what I went to college for. Because you go to college and you major in art, you major in photography, and you get out and you're like, I'm an artist and I'm going to go out and make a living. Wait, nobody told me how to make a living.
Yeah, wait, I forgot that
Wait a
class.
minute, I spent 100,000 hours in a dark room. Where was the class on making any money at all doing that? So when I got out of college, I had also worked kind of part-time as a web developer for quite a while for University of Alabama. So I got a job in advertising doing that for about 5 years. Okay. The housing market crashed, as we all remember. Remember that time?
Definitely.
And I had a 2-year-old little girl. Actually, she might have been like 18 months. But anyway, I found myself partially unemployed. I got moved to part-time from the agency I was at, and I thought, okay, so it's kind of a now or never kind of thing. I wanted to be a photographer when I grew up, and so let's do that. So that's what I did 13 years ago.
And we'll get more into this as we're going today, but you're wearing many hats right now. You've got
so many hats.
You've got a lot of
so
things
many
going
spinning
on.
plates and irons in the fire and other things that represent multiple things happening.
Yes, exactly. And before we get into all the stuff that we're going to talk about today, I do want to remind everybody following along, if you've got questions for Kira that you want her to answer live, we're more than happy to do that. Just make sure and put them in the chat. The team will grab those, we'll get them up on the whiteboard, and we'll have you answer them.
Fantastic.
While we're going. Not
Love
to
that.
put you in the hot seat, but
That's fine.
We're going to do it. So we're honored to have you here. It's
Thank
really
you.
cool that this all worked out. Can you tell everybody a little bit about what you're actually here doing? Because this is just kind of an extra little bonus because you happen to be in town.
Yes, I just happen to be in town. So I am here with Twin Cities PPA, which is a local group here in the area. They are a strong group of amazing
Very
photographers. And I was here yesterday teaching a private workshop for about 20 of their members.
Okay.
And then tonight I am going to be teaching to about 65 or 70 of their members for their meeting, their monthly meeting.
Right. So yesterday and today you're teaching completely different classes, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so yesterday was focused primarily on corporate composite work, the kind of the business of it and how I approach it, which is something that kind of was born in the pandemic for me, which we can talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And then tonight I'm going to be teaching, my class is called Headshots Are For Everyone. Because I don't know a single soul these days that doesn't need some sort of great professional image.
Absolutely.
So
that's definitely been elevated in COVID. I think we have to thank for that.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, for sure. So now that you've kind of kicked that door open, let's talk a little bit about how your business is structured and how that's changed, because I know that you've gone more towards the commercial side, towards headshots and everything. I can remember, just to jump back into the glory days, pre-COVID stuff, the first time I met you, I was introducing you for a program at Imaging, a platform.
That's right.
Presentation, in getting up in front of, however many hundreds of people are in the room and, no pressure there.
Yeah.
From that time, and that was in what, 18, 19?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Till now, there's been a tremendous amount of change for you.
Yeah.
And like you and I were talking, this morning about how you've embraced change. Can you tell us and talk to us a little bit about how your inner change and the art of it and the way you're structuring your business now has really you've thrown it up in the air, and it has come down in completely different spots in 4 years.
It has.
Yeah.
It has, and just for my own mental health, really. And I'm happier than I've ever been with the way my business is going, both sales wise, in the financial part of it, but also just in the personal fulfillment part of it. It's just, I feel like we were walking this morning, and I was like, I just feel like very comfortable in my own skin these days, and that's such a hard thing to get to, because I've been very uncomfortable before. So when 13 years ago when I started, it was sort of like, okay, I don't have to photograph events or weddings because that doesn't appeal to me, but I could do generalized portrait work, which would include children and family, boudoir photography. It could do headshots. Anything with a person in it is basically, so if you want me to take a cake smash session for your baby, great. I'll do a cake smash session for your baby. If you want me to go photograph your pet out in a field with you, I'll do that, And so because beggars can't be choosers, I'm trying to get into the industry. So I started to sort of focus on family portraiture. I had a branch of my business, a separate brand for boudoir photography. Okay. And then I did a little bit of corporate stuff on the side. And I found that what was happening is certain shoot days, I was booking and I was very busy, but certain shoot days, the night before, I would just be filled with this like shaky anxiety about the next day. Not just like the nervousness that I wouldn't do well, but that I didn't want to do it. And that's a terrible feeling, right? Because you're like all in on doing this now, Right. And I started trying to kind of keep track because it was so frequent, but I couldn't really like predict it. So I started trying to keep track of which ones it was happening when, and the ones where it was happening, which would be like newborn shoots, and boudoir sessions, right? And or glamour or any sort of like experience session, where you're providing an experience like that. Those are the ones that I would just really get nervous about, And I started cutting them out. I cut back. I completely stopped doing the boudoir brand, even though I enjoyed doing it. And I started to kind of focus on what I wanted to do. So it became more family portraiture in the commercial side. And so now, as post-pandemic times, I had an enormous surge in my commercial work, enormous surge. And I would say the majority of what I'm working on now is a lot of corporate sessions, a lot of headshot sessions for individuals. And then I've honed in a style of family photography that borrows from my commercial aesthetic.
It definitely does.
And that people are coming to me for specifically, and that I'm getting to actually create art with, which feeds my artist soul.
Yes, exactly.
So
yeah, you've really completed the full circle of business and art and fulfillment. So during 2020, you were not sitting idle.
No.
You looked at that time and you saw the opportunity, and we talk about all the time, if you polled a group of photographers and said, do you have enough time for everything you need to do? The majority of the photographers would be like, no, I don't have any time, I don't have any time.
Yeah.
Well, then all of a sudden we were given time.
Right.
Lots and lots and lots of it. And you took advantage of that.
Yes.
And we worked on a studio redesign for you in 2020. And we have a little snippet of a video from a webinar that we did with you during that time. So we're going to go ahead and show that to you because you talk about the long game in there. So everybody can watch the video. We'll come back and we'll kind of touch back on how you had the thought process to really go into that and make use of that time. So let's go ahead and roll that video quick.
So every time somebody walks in here, especially if it's a past client who had been to the old space, it's the wow factor is, they walk in and they're like, oh, wow, oh, I didn't realize. And this is like headshot and commercial clients too when they come in, because the nice thing, this whole time that we've been coming back and, wearing masks and being very careful, I've had a huge influx of commercial photography clients. And I'm booking those clients who weren't family clients because they come in to get their headshot taken and they go, oh God, this is great. Oh, I want one of these for my house. Oh, you've got to take pictures of my family, or I've got to get us together. So this has been helpful for me for what we were talking about before, which was the long game.
Yep.
This is such an uncertain, weird year
Yep.
that I'm feeling super, super confident about the fall, because while I'm not shooting a lot of family sessions right now because things are pretty tight here in Florida still,
Yep.
I am booking a lot of stuff and making plans with a lot of clients for all of this. So every commercial client that walks through the door is excited about what they didn't realize was possible.
Cool.
You know, especially the size part. A lot of people didn't realize the size portion of it. You know, they come in and, you know, you show a 30 by 40 and they're like, oh, that's massive. And then they come in here, they're like, well, you know, I have my wall is this size. And this room, it's not a huge room, yet it can support these really big pieces.
I love the style of your studio.
Thank you. You had a lot to do with it.
Well, it was fun, you know, and I can remember going through images and talking about things to do on your walls, and you were very open to, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's give your clients the permission to put something large and not traditional at all on their walls. So before we get into the long game, I want to talk a little bit about how your style has really progressed and how you've really changed into a more commercial, more fashion editorial style.
Yeah.
How have you done that?
You know, I think I've leaned into my own experience, not in fashion at all, but I grew up, my mother was in retail management my entire life, so she always managed big department stores. So I spent the majority of my childhood, I was like a legit mall rat during the mall rat era. So I was, yes. So I spent every sick day from school in the back of a casual corner. I spent, you know, every after school, instead of going to something, I was walking up and down the malls going to the arcade in the Orange Julius. And then eventually I went into, you know, before I went off to college, I was managing stores myself. I managed a store called Tape World. Remember Tapes? Remember Tapes?
Mm-hmm. I do remember Tapes.
I'm just aging myself just rapidly right here. But spending all that time also allowed me to sort of appreciate the type of photography and artwork that was from the 90s. Window displays. Okay. So if you remember that era, 90s, 2000s era, when in the heyday of the mall, you saw large portraits of people on minimalist backgrounds, usually white or gray or a bold color sometimes, so that it really showcased. I'm thinking of like the Gap and H&M and totally. You know, and you can remember those times during the holidays too. Even over the cash wraps, you'd see these large, big pieces over the cash wraps of like some celebrity in a Gap scarf, you know what I mean, or whatever. So that has always been an aesthetic that I've been drawn to, and I thought, with my family photography, since I'm already doing headshots to show their personality, and if I could borrow from that aesthetic, if I could make that meet family photography in a meaningful way, then the portraits themselves would stand out. We don't need props. We don't need 100 different backgrounds. You know, we need crisp black and white, high key, mid key, low key, and then it kind of just goes on. It works for itself.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's awesome. So that's like the merchandising side of it. Yeah. The aesthetic side of it. How from the technical side of it? Without going completely down the rabbit hole.
Oh, we can.
I'm sure we could. And we'll be here 6 hours later. Tell us a little bit about the technical side of it. What did you change on that level?
So the consistency was key, because the last thing that I needed to be doing, as much as I love experimenting in the studio with different styles of lighting and playing with light and shaping light, when I got consistent about the lighting setup, when I made it easy for myself to shift between a high key to a low key without moving 6 different lights at a time, my setup is a real simple 1 to 3 light setup. They don't move around that much. I might change a modifier. I have a background system that lowers and raises, and a lot of my stuff works with just a white background, either lit or not lit, to achieve different looks. So I'm able to quickly move into different vibes, you know, like in the studio, without having to spend a lot of time doing setup, which makes me faster working with the clients, which they appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and how we were discussing this morning too, like you are very fulfilled in your style right now. Yeah. And obviously, you know, the images on the wall, they're gorgeous, and they represent a style that not very many people are capable of doing or are doing.
Well, thank you. I don't know about that, but thank you.
So, you know, if you have a client that is looking for that specific thing,
Yes.
then it's a natural fit. And if they're not looking for it, that's fine too. They can go somewhere else.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Because it's about demand or being hired for you versus commodity. You know,
Right.
headshots can be very much commodity, especially the corporate world, right? There's, you know, I might bid something, I might not get it, you know. But with the family portraiture, it's a client, one, trusting you to capture their family. But if they want somebody, and this is not a slight on any other style of photography, but there's a lot of people that go on location. There's a lot of people that, you know, go out to people's homes. There's people that go out in fields. What I do is specific to me, to my style, and I hope that my art comes through in it. So I'm working more towards being commissioned as an artist for that work versus the commodity side of things.
Yeah, and for product side of it, or the product side of it, large, clean, you know, metals, float frame pieces, acrylics work perfect for that.
Yeah.
I can remember, and then we'll move on here to your other hat, big hat coming here, when we were working on your studio design, and the really cool image of the dad and the son.
Yeah, the jumping.
Yep. And why don't you tell the story about that, because you put that in and then what happened? Didn't she buy one the exact same thing?
Oh, yes, she did. Yes. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I was like, what happened, Matt? Tell me, Matt, what happened? Yeah.
Just put you on.
No, she did.
Yeah.
She came in and she goes, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, I need that in the house. And so that was one of those times where, you know, I was decorating and I was just, you know, making samples, and you don't think, you know, so much goes into the decision making about the pieces that you put up because you want them to be impactful and you want somebody to want that in their own home. But for the client to actually walk in and be like, oh, well, okay, I'll just wrap that up. I'll just take one of those. Yeah,
and that's how it works.
Yeah, that's the idea behind it too. I'll add to the other thing that I think solves kind of a problem for a client, just to get into a little story brand world, which is not my area of expertise. But just to solve the problem, when somebody comes into the studio and they see those large pieces, they can have stuff printed online themselves. Like, let's say somebody buys digital files and they go, okay, well, I want to get a 8x10 for my husband's office of the family. But when they see the large piece, then it becomes, that looks overwhelming for me to try and shop and figure out on my own and have installed on my own or whatever. That's not something that they would do for themselves without hiring an expert, right? So then I become kind of the expert on, if you want large art in your home, it's just going to be easier to come to me and have it done, and have my installer, who's my brother, come and come and hang it for you, so that you know it's all taken care of and done. You don't have to worry about it. It's one of those pieces that is not consumer accessible in the same way as some of the other ones, which I love about it too.
Yeah, definitely. And they have such an awesome presence. I can remember you sent me a picture, and I think it was a black and white, and Lucy might have even taken it of you, and you were standing next to that vertical collage.
Just for scale.
Yeah, for scale wise. And you know, you don't realize how impressive those pieces are until you put a human next to them, like, whoa, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, really impactful, really impactful.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about something really exciting that's been happening for the previous 7 years, but is now really...
Now it's here.
Now it's here. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On being the president-elect of the PPA. That's horribly scary.
Wow. No, I'm so excited. It's, you know, it's one that you watch your colleagues on the board like go through these roles, and you try and pay attention and go, okay, yeah, you know, when I get there. But that seems like 1,000 years away, doesn't it? And then all of a sudden you're there. So starting March 1st, I will be the president of PPA, which is wild, just absolutely wild.
That's incredible. So tell us a little bit about how you worked up to this, because you've been on the board for 7 years.
Yeah.
So for people that are listening along that may want to become involved, like what does that journey really look like for you?
Yeah, so we hold elections every single year for open seats on the board. So a term on the board of directors is 2 years, not 7 or 10 or whatever. So it's 2 years. Every 2 years, you come up for election again. So you can be nominated by any member of the PPA community. by organizations like TCPPA, they could nominate, or by committees that we have. There's all kinds of places. The board members can nominate.
Yep.
And then whoever has been nominated gets an interview, and there's only so many seats usually open every year. And so anyway, I was called on by our friend Mary Fisk-Taylor and Gregory Daniel.
Awesome.
Years and years ago, and they called me and said, have you ever considered running for the board of directors? And I said, what does that even mean? I don't even understand what that would mean. And Greg was very kind and explained what it would, entail, that it was just a 2-year commitment at the time. And they just thought I would offer valuable insight to the board. And so I ran, I was elected, and then was elected one more time, and then the board of directors elects people up to the executive committee, which would be those seats, the treasurer and so on. So once you're in those seats, you move through those roles.
Got it. Cool. So before we get deeper into what this next 12 months is going to look like for you, I just want to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube for WHCC. Definitely follow along on Instagram, a WHCC Pro, for all the details of product sizes, all those types of things. Jump on WHCC.com. And if you do have questions for Kira as we're going through here, make sure and put them in the chat, and we will have her answer them live. So we were just kidding a little bit this morning about your next 12 months. And when we were at Imaging, you were my first interview in the booth.
Yeah.
And Jeff Wachowski was my last.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he had traveled like 63 or 68 legs.
Yes. It's a lot of travel. And so Jeff is our outgoing president. He'll be chair beginning in March. And so I've been sort of like, elbow and elbow with Jeff, like moving through these roles. And it's fun because he, a year ago, when he was turning in his article for PPA magazine, because there's a president's message, he'd send me a little text and be like, okay, 1 year from today, your first article is due. And so he's been trying to give me these warnings. And Jeff is so good about planning his travel really far in advance. I am not. So all of the warning signs were there for me to be more prepared, and yet here we are.
Well, it's really exciting, and you're so personable and so well known in the industry. That is one of the big pieces of PPA president. It's to go out and to be in touch with people. So how do you, as the incoming president, make decisions on where you're going to go, or how do people, say, oh, I would love to have her come and, do this or do this? How do you make those decisions, or does the board do that, or how does that work?
So generally, we send out, we have our community network partners, which are all of the groups around the country, right, that are PPA, formerly known as affiliates.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
And so we send out an email every time the next president is incoming. An email goes out to them just to let them know that if they'd like to have the president come and give a chat or a talk, we'd be happy to let me know. I'm not obligated to go because there's so many of them to go to. You want to go to as many as you can
and have the maximum impact.
Yeah, and have the maximum impact too. So I've been invited to so many. I'm going to as many as possible that I can, while still having a bit of a work-life balance, because unfortunately I can't close up for a year.
Right.
But there's a lot of travel coming. There's some exciting trips coming. We're going to Singapore in March for the World Photographic Cup, which is insane.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to help represent PPA as president there. I've got all kinds of trips planned for this summer. Some of them are like back to back, like I'm leaving one city and then flying to the next to get it done. But I'm so excited. I really love going to these conferences. I really love meeting people and shaking their hands and hugging them and all and just finding out what they're all about.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So PPA is constantly encouraging photographers, teaching, education, multiple platforms. What is one of the main focus, or a few of the main focuses right now for PPA going into your presidency and beyond?
Yeah, so one of the main focuses has always been education as far as on the business side, right? Okay. Because we all want everybody to be fabulous artists and photographers, but at the end of the day, what helps sustain the industry is businesses that are successful. Right.
You have to eat.
You have to eat. Sometimes the skill will come or the skill would advance. It certainly happened for me,
Yep.
you know. But one thing that PPA is always focused on and will always continue to focus on is sustainable businesses for photographers and helping them achieve their goals to make it a career.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's a priority. The next thing that's kind of exciting that's coming this year is the Merit Image Review. So you may remember we have International Photographic Competition, or the IPC.
Yep.
And that is our path towards getting your degree. So your Master of Photography degree, your Craftsman degree. We've separated those things because we want more people to participate in it. We want more people seeking their degree because I can tell you from my own personal experience that going after my Master of Photography degree, I am a changed photographer skill level. Like going in, I thought I was awesome. Coming out of it, I'm humbled to see where I was.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Because just pushing yourself to enter those images into what was our competition every single year really pushed me to be a better photographer, and I'm so much better for it technically, creatively,
Right.
and so on. But the Merit Image Review now, because it's sort of, for some people, the idea of competing to earn, how many degrees has anyone ever earned, but they had to compete in order to get it? Have you ever?
Yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's an
what-
interesting way to think about it.
What we're
yeah.
trying to achieve this year is we're going to have a monthly Merit Image Review. So you can submit up to 4 images a month, and those images will be reviewed by our national approved judges. And you can work towards that degree by earning merits that way without competing neck and neck with anyone specifically. And then later this year, we're going to be releasing some information on the all-new International Photographic Competition for our die-hard competitors and for those who want to become die-hard competitors. And so more information is coming out on that in just a few months.
Okay, cool. So as a person who went through the degree system, is it going to take longer now, or is it going to be more of a more efficient way to get your degrees if you're able to enter 4 per month?
Yeah, so you still can only earn 8 merits a year.
Okay.
So it's technically the same. You can't earn it any faster than you could earn it before.
Okay.
And some people were able to earn it in 2 years before. Some people, it took them 10 years. It took me 3 years. It took friends of mine 5 years. It took one of mine 2 years. You know, so that's on your pace.
Okay.
When you earn your maximum, if you earn your maximum in the year, then there's nothing else to put in that year. You'll have to wait till the next year.
Okay, good. So we just came back from imaging, and it was awesome.
Oh, I thought so too.
It was fantastic. You know, from being in the booth, you know, usually that third day is a little bit quieter.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
No.
Like there were still people in the booth when they like turned the lights off at the
Yeah.
end, you know, and said, everybody's got to go now,
Yeah.
which was fantastic. So just kind of a funny question, like how many miles did you put on your feet? Because I saw you going nonstop.
I was on, my watch was just like, please sit down. Please sit
Please
down.
sit down.
Please take a break. Yeah, and now my watch is shaming me for the change in my activity level.
Oh,
right?
right.
Like, so, but no, oh my gosh. So my husband flew in kind of midway. He's usually there for part of it. And he came in and he was like, what can I do for you? Because I was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I want to lay down and I just need a foot rub until I fall asleep. And so that's what happened. It's just squeezing feet until slumber. And my feet hurt so bad that on degree night, award and degree night, I had these beautiful fancy shoes that I was going to wear with my beautiful fancy dress. I ended up wearing my beautiful fancy white high top sneakers with my beautiful fancy, because I could not physically get my feet into the shoe. So that's about how many miles I put on the feet.
When I was doing the interview with Jeff at the end, he's
barely
like,
standing.
Yeah, he's like, I can't stand still. I got to keep walking. I'm like, well, you got to stop
guy.
for just like 2 minutes here.
Oh my
you know?
God! Well, and he's, you know, that year that you're president, they have you doing exponentially more than the rest of us were. So he was dead on his feet for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're excited for your presidency, you know,
Thank you.
and to have this opportunity to work closely with you. It's super cool. So. Obviously, you kind of joked about a little bit about, you know, trying to keep a work balance, you know, with your life, you know, with business and being the president and being a mom and being a wife and, you know, all the things. How are you going to do that?
Oh, I don't know, Matt. Do you know?
I have no clue.
Do you know how I might do that? I'm taking
help.
suggestions. If anybody callers want to come in or commenters want to give me some suggestions. No, so I've worked on a few things. One thing that I did, Frank, I'll be real honest about it, is because I know I cannot take the volume of shoots that I did last year.
Yep.
I raised my prices. And it was time anyway to do it. I haven't done it. I don't do it every year, very frequently, but it was time to at least, especially on the corporate side, do that.
Yeah.
And does that give me anxiety? Yes, but I need to be able to shoot less and even just break even for me anyway. And so I have some anxiety about that, but I am in control of the amount of travel. Like we said earlier, I don't have to go everywhere. I'm trying to go to as many places as I can. But I'm also trying to make time with my family. So I'm very excited that Lucy and Kevin are coming to Singapore with me, because I can't imagine going that far away without them both.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And just to kind of bring this down to a very human level and take the presidency and business out of it, you had a scary situation this last week.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't even had a whole lot of time to really process it. But so Thursday night, because I was going out of town, and my husband was out of town. Lucy and I went to a nice dinner. We had dessert. Posted on my stories about us, and then we had to run some errands. And so after we're running the errands, it's pouring down rain, and it's dark. I mean, it's dark out at 6:30 now, you know. And so we're on our way home, very close to home, and it's raining, and I'm in a turn lane, and I am going to turn left, and I can't see because the headlights are reflecting the road. And so the guy in front of me is turning, so I'm like, oh, it's no problem. We'll both turn. I'll follow him. I'll get out of those headlights, and I'll be able to see. Well, he U-turns, and I can't correct, and so I just run right into the traffic light pole.
Eek.
Yeah, so it was really scary. We were both okay, but I crashed my car, and in a panic, I called my friend Amanda Hunter, who is a headshot photographer in Tallahassee as well, a direct competitor, but somebody I met years ago through the Tallahassee Professional Photographers Guild. Her boyfriend came to my rescue, came and picked up Lucy, took her back, came back in the rain, unloaded all of my gear with me, put it in his car, took me back and then took care of my kid while I made the 100,000 phone calls that I had to make to deal with this. The next morning, another headshot and portrait photographer in my town, Stephen Sacchio, met me at the job. I had to shoot headshots at a theater, a college theater, all day from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m.
Wow.
He showed up, made sure that my gear was in the right place, and that in case I was hurt, because I wasn't sure if I was hurt. That's one of those things where you're like, I'm fine.
Is it the adrenaline?
It was but then the next day I was really sore. He came and helped me make sure all my gear was there, stayed with me for 2 hours with me and my assistant. We were functioning, but he was just there kind of as a safety net, you know? And then he left and offered to come and clean up, and I let him off the hook. But I met these people through the Tallahassee Professional Photographers Guild. They are actively direct competitors with the work that I do. But for me, it's always about community over competition. And that was one of those moments where you realize how important that is. And I've never been so, I'm always grateful for my friends from TPPG and FPP, which has done similar things for multiple people. But that's what I always like to remind people about when they say, well, what's the value in joining, a local PPA group? Because they don't have insurance or they don't have the benefits of PPA. Why wouldn't I just join the national? It's that. Right. It's building those connections, those friendships, that network of people that understand what you're going through, the troubles of being a business owner as a photographer, and who you can lean into when there's a crisis or broken lens or anything.
Absolutely.
I'm just so appreciative that I came up through those groups, because it's put me where I am today.
Yeah, for sure. And I have the same exact background, with state associations and regional groups and PPA, and there's such a power within those groups.
There is.
And a lot of times the classes are amazing, but the time afterwards, sitting and
hanging out
afterwards. I've sat in a hallway before and had 2-hour conversations about things, and it makes you just think, and stuff clicks. So for those of you that haven't taken advantage of PPA imaging, these large-scale events, or your state association, smaller affiliate groups, definitely get involved.
Absolutely get involved. It'll change. It changed my life. For sure. So I'm so grateful to be a part of those groups.
Definitely. So as the president for the next 12 months, starting March 1st?
March 1st. It's around the corner. It's any second.
That's coming right up.
Yeah.
That'll be in 4 minutes from now.
Yeah.
What do you have for your own goals for the presidency? Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So that's a question. So that's, if I've been asked a question the most in the past month, it's been that question. And it's interesting because nothing that I could do or achieve this year would be a decision made without the entire board of directors behind me. So for 7 years, I've been a part of that decision-making board panel, you know, and so as far as like specific goals that I personally, or any sort of agenda I would personally like to achieve, that is non-existent because we work as a team. And we move forward as a team. So, but if I were just to say like my goals, I am really enjoying meeting people. I'm really enjoying. I haven't even really started, but it feels like it has. Just getting on the road and connecting with people and having those dinners and having, you know, drinks or sitting through other people's classes, because I'm actually learning so much. Just getting to I don't get to attend a lot of classes, right? You know, and so it's been nice to be able to have that too. So I'm probably most excited about becoming more of a national community, and listening to them and talking to them about their concerns about the industry and their highs and lows. Yeah, you know,
definitely. I thought it was really interesting how you mentioned that when we were kind of going through our questions for today about, you know, as the president, you've kind of gone through all of those decision-making, you know, agendas and processes now. And then once you go through your next 12 months, then you'll transition to what position?
To the chair position. So that's where Jeff is moving into now.
Okay.
And so the chair runs our board meetings. And sets the agendas and keeps everything in order. As you can imagine, with the volume of personalities, all of us, we're all characters on that board.
What?
What? But you can imagine that it could be real easy to just, you know, squirrel off into a different direction. And so the chair's job is to sort of be a bit of a wrangler, just to keep us on time, and because we have a finite amount of time that we can be together and make these decisions. Also keep us organized, you know, so that we can cover everything and make sure we get to it. And is kind of the structural planner of the board. And so I remember when I first got on the board and I was watching, I think I was watching Rob Beam do that, and I remember going, ugh. I can't imagine, you know. And then I watched my colleagues go through that too, and every year I would be like, ooh, I don't know how that's, you know. You do get a gavel.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah, so there's that. We have such a great group. We can be unruly just like any other group, but I mean, we work great together, and so we have a good system in place. So I'm not worried about it.
Very cool. So like we were mentioning, we just got back from imaging, and that was in Nashville, and it was a wonderful time. Where is your convention going to be held? Because we're moving.
Well, our convention, because it's not mine, but the one where I will be ending my presidency at is going to be in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, cool.
Louisville, Kentucky. And I have never spent any time in Louisville, but I'm excited about the bourbon possibilities.
Yes. I think there might be a few more people that are excited about that.
It's probably the number one thing. Louisville, we're going to have to get some bourbon. Where will we find it? You know,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It pours from the faucets in the bathroom. Yeah, so I'm excited about Louisville. There's a new facility that we're going to be having the conference at, newer facility. I've seen footage and photos of where we're going to be. I'm very excited. I think that our members are going to be really thrilled to go too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I spent a little bit of time in Louisville, and it's a fun city. Like it's a beautiful part of the country, and we're excited for it as well. So for people that are following along, where do they find you? I know that you are
under my bed.
Yeah, right, hiding.
Just curled up.
You know, your podcast, your online presence, like where can people keep up with Kira Derryberry?
Yeah, so I have a podcast with my friend Mary Fisk-Taylor called Get Your Shoot Together, and that is available on all platforms, I believe, for your podcast listening pleasure. You can also find me at Shakira on Instagram, because my name is actually Shakira. Please don't sing that song to me.
I won't.
Let me just take a minute right now just to say to the listening audience, never sing that song to me.
Never ever.
Please, it's not funny. But no, it's at SHEKIRA on Instagram. You can follow me there. And you know, of course, I'm on the usual places, Facebook, and I have a group on Facebook called Level Up with Kira Derryberry.
Awesome.
You're welcome to join.
Very cool. Well, we really love having you here.
I love being here.
And we're going to have some lunch, and then we're going to take you over for your program this evening, so that's going to be amazing. Thank you for taking time out to come and hang with us. And good luck
Thanks.
with everything. It's going to be an exciting year, you know. And,
it is.
You know, some friends of ours, we were talking about New Year's resolutions, and they're like, "Oh, are you guys going to do resolutions?" And they were like, "Well, we prefer to look 12 months ahead."
Yeah.
And say, you know, a year from today, let's look back and talk about the things that we've done.
Yeah.
You know, so for you to think about 12 months from now,
Taking a look back.
and taking a look back at this, you know, how you think the year is going to go,
Yeah.
and maybe even making a few notes, and then actually looking back 12 months from now, it'll be fun.
It will be fun. I like that because I didn't make any resolutions because I was like, this is the year of grace.
Yeah.
we're not going to diet or worry about that. We're just gonna live our life and approach it day to day. So I love that. That's great.
Diet?
Never. What?
Never heard of it.
Gross.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yep, and thank you everybody for joining us today. This has been awesome. If you are watching the replay or the recording of the live from today, make sure and put questions into the chat because we know how to find her. And if you have questions, we can definitely track her down and get those answered for you. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to hang out. Make sure and hit that subscribe button so you get notified of all the cool stuff that's coming up for WHCC. At WHCC Pro on Instagram. Website is WHCC.com. We loved having you here today. Thank you for hanging out with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will talk to you at the next time.